Palm oil is an important part of Indonesia's economy, especially since Indonesia is the world's biggest producer, consumer, and exporter of palm oil. In 2021, Indonesia exported $35 billion worth of palm oil, supplying the world with 34.2 million tons of palm oil goods. However, Indonesia, along with other producing countries, have had to fight against a negative campaign against palm oil, as some, including the European Union, have questioned the effects it has on the environment and linked it to deforestation. As the EU refused to recognize palm-based biodiesel as a renewable fuel and plans to phase out palm-based biodiesel by 2030. But now, changing global conditions, especially due to Russia's war in Ukraine, has changed this negative stance on palm oil. In my talks with Professor Paganini, business professor at Temple University Rome and an expert on palm oil, he explained that many countries and companies which previously used sunflower oil are now using palm oil once again, as the invasion of Ukraine, which is the world's exporter of sunflower oil, has halted the country's ability to supply the commodity.
Unfortunately, the war has cut off two of the major commodities, world commodities producers, being Ukraine, of course, and Russia as well. Russia is a big producer of many commodities, including wheat, grain, and sunflower as well, but it often uses the ports of Ukraine and the Black Sea to ship to the Western countries and particularly to Europe. So this conflict is not just hitting badly Ukraine production of commodities, but as well as Russia. And both of them represent 66% of production of sunflower oil. So that means that now there's no sunflower being shipped from Ukraine toward, the rest of the world and particularly toward Europe. So there is a lack, an important lack of vegetable oils, cooking oils, and this is creating, a very dramatic situation and a very big speculation over prices. And it makes oils, including palm oil, even more important than they were before. We need to keep in mind that palm oil is an oil that is extremely important for world consumption, and particularly not just in the biodiesel, but also in the food and so forth, in the edible oil market. Why? Because every day each of us need a big quantity of fat, and we need to take this fat from either traditional fats or vegetable oils. And palm oil is a great source of the fat that we need.
Indeed, many companies in Europe which previously banned the use of palm oil are now using it again because they need it to produce goods such as food products. In the UK, the supermarket chain Iceland has returned to using palm oil in some of its food products, as the price of sunflower oil has surged by 1,000% since Russia's war on Ukraine. Many other food-producing companies in Europe are also taking the same step in reverting back to the use of palm oil, as Professor Paganini explained that the reason why some companies banned it before was simply for marketing and sales purposes. Some companies in Europe right now who had previously sort of banned palm oil, they're now using palm oil again because there's no other source of vegetable oil. So among the companies, the corporations, do you see a shift in attitude in Europe, Professor?
Absolutely. You are absolutely right. Let me say that, first of all, we need to understand where this is coming from. Palm oil is, unfortunately, I would say, not produced in Europe. It's produced anywhere else, but not in Europe. So when it comes to the European market so massively, because palm oil is a big commodity in Europe, despite Europe is a small market for palm oil producing countries, it's being seen as a potential enemy by other oil or competing oils, rapeseed, for instance. And most of the farming in Europe is subsidized. So if you see an importing commodity taking your place, you're losing money. So this is how a campaign against palm oil started, particularly in France. Secondly, food companies, they use the palm oil concern to promote their products against products that were using palm oil, very successful products that were using palm oil. So it was a matter of marketing and commercial purposes. So they started using the famous, unfortunately, palm oil free labels. And I wonder, did this increase their sales? If we look at some numbers, not probably. They got some shares of the market, but certainly they didn't make the money they were thinking about. But this happened in the past 5 years. People got tired, behavior changed, pandemic came, as I said earlier, the war, unfortunately. So priorities are changing, and many companies have already dropped the claim because it was not bringing anything else. Some companies stayed, and now they are lacking, unfortunately for them, they are lacking sunflower. I say unfortunately, but when they made the choice to turn to sunflower, they should have thought that they were buying sunflower from Ukraine, and only from Ukraine, and not a multi-source commodity. And that was highly risky. And now they are paying, unfortunately, because of the war, they are paying a high price. Some companies, like a couple in England, declare openly that they left palm oil because it was unsustainable. And then they say, oh, sorry, we've got to go back to palm oil. So my point is, were you lying before, or are you lying now? Is palm oil bad and you're giving it to us, or you were lying that palm oil is bad? So this is something that we should ask them. But the point is not penalizing or revenging. The point is, we need palm oil.
However, despite issues regarding sunflower oil supply and prices, Professor Paganini also explained that some companies in Europe are still hesitant to go back to palm oil because they have already invested so much in turning away from the commodity, while many uncertainties also still lie ahead.
Other companies are still reluctant. They are afraid because, of course, they invested money to run away from palm oil, investing in new formulas and new processes. And now they want to take some time before going back. Obviously, the situation is very uncertain. I understand that. Some others are concerned because of marketing purposes. And, they have been using this no palm oil labeling for a couple of years now. And they are concerned that this is hitting their reputation. But let's see. We still have some months ahead. We have to see what's happening in Ukraine, particularly in the next few months, till the early fall, September, October, when we see how much Ukraine will be able to export. Obviously, as a world citizen, I hope Ukraine will be able to be in business and the war is over. But if we want to be realistic, a lot of sunflower, particularly edible Alto Lake sunflower, will be missing. And these companies will have to make choices. And the choice is probably going back to palm oil.
But aside from current geopolitical tensions, namely Russia's war in Ukraine, the issue of convincing the EU regarding the sustainability of palm oil still stands, as palm oil production had been accused of causing deforestation. However, many independent institutes, including Global Forest Watch, has found that Indonesia has dramatically reduced deforestation in the past decades. In your recent talks here, you were talking about Indonesia's efforts in sustainable palm oil production. Can you just share us your view on that, Professor?
Well, Indonesia is unfortunately very often and unfairly associated with deforestation. And certainly there's still deforestation in Indonesia, like you have deforestation in many European countries, not in the past, not 1,000 years ago, right now. But if you look at the last data from independent sources in the United States, being Global Forest Watch, Indonesia is the country that since 2011 has been dramatically decreasing deforestation, except for a parenthesis in 2015. And so I think this is a good point. There are still challenges like traceability. And I think Indonesia has the chance to tell the rest of the world that most of their supply chain is being traceable. Unfortunately, there are still companies and plantations that are not. But, it's a big country with a lot of people, and it requires time before educating everybody, before explaining everybody how sustainability is the way forward.
And Indonesia has been doing this as well. Just recently, in the Jambi province, an MOU was signed to increase sustainability certificates among smallholder palm oil farmers in a bid to scale up their sustainability practices. And now that Indonesia is leading and assuming the role of G20 presidency this year, this marks a perfect chance for Indonesia to showcase to the world, especially to the EU, regarding the sustainability and significance of palm oil.
And the G20 can be a great opportunity for Indonesia to tell the rest of the world, people need fat, They need vegetable oils. We need to produce them. Indonesia is doing a great job in producing it and making it sustainable and resilient and high quality. All the other oils are welcome to do the same. And I think your country should take the leadership here and not just following what EU or the US are saying, but telling EU and the US, please come to our table, let's work together. Maybe it takes time for Indonesia to do certain steps that other countries can do much more quickly. You need resources, human resources, you need economic resources. So sit on the table and talk about this.
Furthermore, Professor Paganini believes that the squabble over palm oil sustainability has actually benefited palm oil, as it has pushed official sustainability certification on palm oil much more so than other similar commodities.
Palm oil is the only supply chain that has over 4 standards for certification scheme. No other oil has 4 certification schemes. Some even have no schemes. So this shows that these negative campaigns, by the end of the day, have been a fortune for the palm oil industry. They have been a pain, but they have been a fortune because today the palm oil industry is probably 10, 20 years ahead when it comes to quality and sustainability. Other oils now have to fight with this, and I hope they will follow countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, and other countries in reaching these quality standards.